And welcome. Today I want to introduce you to one of my clients, Lynn. She's gone through the What You Need to Simply Thrive program, and her journey and how she embraced the content that I shared with her, I personally find really inspiring, and I think that you will too. So I wanted to ask her if she wouldn't mind joining us today and just sharing a little bit about the process that she's been through. So thank you so much for joining us today, Lynn.
Pleasure.
So just in order that people can kind of understand a little bit more about you and about where you were, like, tell us a little bit about yourself and where you were before we started working together.
Cool. So my name's Lynn Hord. I actually do work as a joy coach. So I help people bring more joy into their work, business and lives. But interestingly, recently I've just finished off a year of actually getting treated for breast cancer. So when I joined the program, I was still getting my last phase of treatment. It was getting radiotherapy. It was just before that as well. And so, you know, I was like, oh, but I knew that when I came out at the end of my treatment, I really wanted to kind of be in a strong place. So when we talked about me joining your program, it was around putting in place those really good habits, seeing, you know, where the gaps were in terms of how I met my own needs, and then bigger picture, you know, making sure going forward in life, you know, I had a really solid foundation of how to look after myself and feel empowered.
Yeah, and I know that when we first started talking about it, especially because of where you were at in your journey, things were a little tough. Like, would you be happy to share a little bit about where you were at that point in time?
Sure. I was. So I think around the point where the course started was, you know, I had literally, I'd finished chemo and was still feeling a lot of fatigue from that. But I'd also had my really big operation. I'd had a mastectomy and immediate reconstruction, which was a really massive 10-hour operation, which took 2 months of recovery. So it was actually, you know, just at the end, I think, of that first month of recovery, we talked about it. And I was like, oh, you know, I wasn't sure that I would be able to. I knew I wasn't sure I would have the energy, you know, obviously to get out of the program. But, you know, that's one of the things that I loved about, you know, when we talked about it. You're like, Lynn, you know, this is in support of you. So, and also what I loved about, you know, you talk about meeting your needs in the program, and whether you choose to do the program, you know, is around, like, you know, if you feel like this is going to be supporting of you, then go forward. But also, you know, you don't have to do everything. You know, that was the really wonderful energy that you gave, that I was like, made me feel reassured, and like, I was like, oh, it's okay. I can do this at my own pace, you know, and if I can't keep up, that's okay. But it was, you know what I mean? Like, it was just, and I knew that I would be able to take from it what I needed at the time without feeling overwhelmed. That was the big thing.
And actually, I know that this is what you do. I'm sure you won't mind me sharing. Like, we had a conversation before you joined the program, because you were feeling tired, and I remember there was a whole thing about you needed to have your naps and things like that, lots of naps to get through the day. And I remember, like, because you'd been aware of the work that I did before, that there was an interest in what I was doing, but also there was this kind of feeling of hesitation around it. It feels like committing to a program almost felt like too much. It felt overwhelming. It felt like you didn't know if you were going to be able to do it. And you and I got on the phone and we had this conversation where I sort of said to you, the thing about this is the program is about meeting your needs. So if you sacrifice your needs in the process of learning how to meet your needs, you're kind of working against yourself. So you don't need to be on all of the live calls because they're all recorded. You can catch up on video. You don't have to do, I think you did you go through level 2 or level 3? I can't remember.
It was 3.
Level 3, yeah, which is the deep dive. And I remember saying to you, like, yes, you're going through at level 3, which is the deepest level, but some weeks you might want to do the level 2 exercise or even the level 1 exercise. Like do it in a way that feels supportive to you, and in a way that the thing that always comes to mind when I talk to people about this is there's a lady in the US called Sherry Cowbomb, who's known as the juice lady. So she teaches about juicing, and she always gets asked, like, what's the best juicer? The centrifugal juicer, or the mastication juicer, or the cold press? Like, what would you say? And her response is amazing. It's like, the juicer that's best for you is the one you're going to use. And as somebody who has juiced myself in the past, I've had the slow mastication juicer, and I didn't use it because it took too long. I hated it. But the centrifugal one I did use, and it was like, I wanted to kind of offer that same approach, that you could do it in a way that worked for you, in order that you would do it so you could get the benefit out of it. And I remember, I mean, I don't know whether you remember, but I remember you sharing with me, like, there was a kind of a tension around it before we got on that call. And I remember by the end of the call, you were like, oh my God, not only do I feel good about it, but I actually want to do it now. And there was a real shift in your energy. I mean, can you speak to that a little bit?
It was really marked. You know, I did get on the call, and I was like, because it was like, I wanted to do it, but internally I was feeling really resistant, because I was like, I don't want to be overwhelmed. You know, I don't want to be able to put the time in. I don't want to, you know, do it, not get everything that I want out of it, because I don't have the time or energy to put into it, you know. So I had all of these concerns, and it really was, I could feel the, like, the you know, if you were to look at it what is it when you know, the metaphysical, you know, I was like this when we got on the call, and I was like, oh, afterwards, because it was the permission you gave me, you know, and the understanding exactly what you had said before around, Lynn, this is about meeting your needs. So if you sacrifice your needs in order to do the program, then that's kind of missing the point. And then I was like, oh yes. And it was just the permission that you gave me to go, Lynn, if you want to do it, like, you know, if you feel intuitively it's the way forward, you know, join the program, and know that, you know, whatever you can do, you know, within the program, it's actually going to be meeting your needs. You know, it's not that you have to do everything. And going forward, so, and then when I was actually in the program, you know, that it was kind of like you were sitting on my shoulder, because, you know, it's an incredibly comprehensive program. Like, you know, what you put together is amazing. And, you know, because I didn't have a lot of energy, sometimes with the exercises, I would sit there and I might get overwhelmed. But, you know, just because for where I was at, I was like, oh, but then I would hear you, you know, in my head just going, well, what would meet your needs? And then it just kind of kept going around, and gave me the permission to go, well, I'll do this part of the exercise, or I'll do the exercise this way, because that feels good and feels easy, and I'm still getting, like, you know, something out of the, you know, the exercise. So it was a wonderful, just, you know, kind of practice throughout the entire thing. Because I mean, that's what, you know, it's all about. It's like, so what would meet your need now? What can you actually do to move forward that is nourishing but not draining? It's great.
and I think the key thing is that also, in terms of that moving forward, it's what can you do to move just a little bit forward. You don't have to make these massive strides in one go. And it's like, if I just move a little bit forward today, and a little bit forward tomorrow, and a little bit, like, by the end of the week, oh look, I've moved quite a distance. But you don't have to make it this kind of big, overwhelming thing. And it's interesting, I think we've kind of already spoken about this, but the next question I was going to ask you is, like, what was the obstacle that would have prevented you from doing the program? And I think this kind of sense of overwhelm and concern of whether you were going to be able to get what you wanted to out of it probably was this. Was there anything else, or was that the main thing?
No, that was the main thing, you know, because I have kind of, I knew about what your work is, and, you know, we've, you know, talked about it for, you know, a while now, you know, through our chats. So I knew that, you know, I knew that I wanted to do it, but I was just really, I guess, afraid that I was going to overwhelm myself, and also get frustrated, because, you know, when you don't have the energy sometimes to put into a program, you just get frustrated, you know, because you just beat up on yourself, essentially. You know, but I was like, that just kind of all went away when we had the conversation. So yeah, they would be the main kind of two things that kind of would have got in the way had we not cleared it up throughout.
And so was that conversation that thing that gave you that final push to say, yes, I mean, I want to do it?
It was, but it was the shift, you know, because it was the clarity that you gave me about how I could be and how I could engage with the program, you know, because basically it's like there are no rules. The only rule here is make sure you're meeting your needs and you're not doing something to go against, you know, you're not sacrificing your needs. And with that as your rudder, when you're going through the program, it makes it, you know, because you're like, this is the point, this is why I'm here. So it's a wonderful, like, you know, the practice of it really grounded it in, and you've got to do it throughout the whole program. You know, it was what I did because of where I was at. You know, I didn't necessarily have the energy that I would normally have to just kind of like dive in and do it all. So I was like, what can I do here? You know, what can I do to feel like I am moving forward? And it's like, you know, I mean, I say in my work, more joy, more of the time. It's just those little steps forward, and, you know, your approach is exactly the same. So that was kind of realizing that, giving me the permission, I guess, to go, Lynn, you know, do what you can, because that's actually going to be meeting your needs. I was like, we're in.
And that's where you'll get the benefit. And actually, it's really interesting to listen to you speak there, that whole thing around you didn't have the energy to kind of dive straight in. And a lot of women are in that space where it's like, I want to do everything 100%. I want to do it perfectly. I want to go as full, as deep and broad as I possibly can. I want to do every single facet of the exercises. And we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to be like that. I mean, obviously, I know that you had a physical condition which was affecting your ability to do that. And in some ways, that the fact that you couldn't just dive straight in and do everything 100%, in some respects, I actually think it may have been helpful in how you were going through the program, because you really had to check in with yourself and say, is this really serving me? Is what I'm putting into this going to balance out with what I'm going to get out? And I think it's something that the people listening to this could really maybe benefit from, is just having that, even if you do physically have the capability of diving in and doing that full depth and breadth thing, the whole, the perfectionist tendencies that we have aren't necessarily working for us when it comes to meeting our needs. Often they're working against us. So having that time to kind of stop and breathe and go, actually, is this meeting my needs? Is this my brain telling me I should be doing all of this because that's how we've been raised, is to do everything and do it all perfectly? That kind of continually dropping back into, is it my brain telling me I should, or is my being and my body and my emotional state saying, yes, this feels good to do this, so I'm going to follow that? So I think that what you've just shared is actually really important for all women who are going through this, who are considering going through this program.
Absolutely. And it's such a great point to make, because previously I was that A-type person, you know, I was like, you know, if I'm going to invest in a program, I'm going to make sure I do all of it. But that wasn't necessarily to my benefit, because, you know, as we talked about, there's the stress involved and the, you know, that internal pressure that we put on ourselves. Whereas in terms of getting the nurturing and the learning that we're needing, like we can't absorb it all. Like, it doesn't matter any course you do, you can't absorb it all, right? Yeah. So it was, again, another kind of experience for me of going and trusting I'm going to get what I need from this program if I just keep listening into what I can do and what I can, you know, manage, you know, what I can participate in, and it worked. You know, it was a great. I'm really grateful for that opportunity to practice that, you know, in a container where that's the point. Yeah. Your needs.
So what was it like doing the program? What was the process of the program like? How did you feel as you were going through it? Like, what were any ahas? Like, what did you enjoy about the program and going through it?
Okay, so if you do remember anything that I've forgotten, you know, please remind me, because so that's one of the things, you get brain fog after all of the treatment I've had. So sometimes I forget these things. So, you know, going through the program itself was, because I hadn't done a structured program for a while, so it was great to kind of get back into it. You know, we had those the weekly calls, which I really enjoyed, and again, it was great because you said, you go through the level 1, 2, 3 on the call, and you'd said to me, Lynn, if you don't have the energy to do level 3, hop off and watch it on the video, which I was so grateful for, because there were some days when I hit my wall and I was like, I've got to go. So, so that was, again, it was, really flexible, and because you recorded, I could go and, catch up afterwards. And you've got a lot of, resources, within the program. And I just love the breadth of, it's such a deep understanding of what needs means. I haven't, and I work in the personal development field, and I've done a lot over the last, decade and a half, but I've never come across something that is this comprehensive, this deep, and can have, the impact ongoing that it does. So, as a program, I was just like, wow, I was blown away by kind of like what's in there and how you explain it. But it was also incredibly, and so I'm speaking to the content, because that's kind of the thing that kind of really hit me, was, because obviously you break it down into a number, a certain number of needs, and and it was just, it's so empowering. It's like, because I guess before I felt like I had quite a narrow view of needs, whereas, you opened me, I was like, whoosh, there was like, oh, like, so I have all of these needs that I can meet and that I can work with, it can support my internal nourishment. And that's actually really, empowering is not even the wrong word. It's like, I'm like, oh, wow, I have so much more control over this than I potentially may have realized, and also there's so many things that I was like, oh, that's a need. So, we might talk about other things out in the world, like, personal power, and anyway, sorry not to give a spoiler alert, giving away things.
Okay.
But I was like, oh, that is a need. And I've just never thought about it before in terms of I could, how I could meet that. It just shifts it when you're like, that's a need.
Yes.
That in order for you to reach that kind of level of balance and vitality and whatever it is you're kind of looking for, all of these things need to be supported. And it really shifted in my mind that I was like, looking at it, I was like, right, that's what I need. How do I go about meeting that? That was yes.
Yeah. Well, I love that. And I love the fact that I think one of the things that I found from working with people around needs for many years now is the recognition that by something being named as a need and recognized and acknowledged it's a need, it helps that, it almost kind of goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning of our conversation. It's like, it gives you that internal permission to meet it, as opposed to it feeling like an indulgence or something that would be nice to do. As soon as something becomes a need, it's like it almost we are able to give ourselves permission to do it, because it's a must. It's not negotiable. It's not something that would be kind of nice to have or it'd be good if. It's like, once it's a need, we go, oh, this is essential now. This is something that I have permission to give myself this thing that maybe previously I haven't.
Absolutely. And it's not just, so the permission is a very big piece, which I've kind of mentioned before, but it's also the energy that brings, because when, it's like, this is probably not the best example, but if you're thinking about a massage, right, you're like, oh, maybe I don't, maybe I do, but if you need a massage, for instance, like I'm getting massages to help the shock move out of my system from my experience, like that's a need. Like I have to get that out of my system.
Right.
So it really makes you prioritize, make more defined choices about like where I'm spending my time and my energy, in order to make. So that's also the other part in there. Like I can feel the shift from like to I'm on it, because I'm like, that's a need. I've got to get that done. Not in a bad way, but just like I need, that has, in order to attain the goals that I'm looking for, whatever they are, it doesn't matter. I need this, I need to do this.
Absolutely. And actually the example that we brought up earlier, that is a really simple one, I think, around this is napping and resting. And I know that obviously it's something that you've been needing from a physical standpoint because of what you've been going through physically. But so many people are like, well, no, that would be indulgent, or I'd be lazy if I was taking a nap. As soon as you recognize, hold on a second, I need this rest in order to be effective in this and this, oh, that shifts the energy around it. Like, so, okay, not only do I feel comfortable doing it, but I want to do it because it's going to give me something else at the end of it.
Yes, and for me, like, right, I'm still napping. So now that I'm slowly getting back into work, in my calendar, it says nap. Like, it's an appointment that I have, because I know that if I miss that, like, it's still a big need. So if I miss that, I'm in trouble. So, you know, I make it an absolute non-negotiable in my day.
Absolutely. And I'm curious as to whether, I've had this feedback from other people who've gone through the program. I'm curious as to whether this was your experience as well, that because you spoke to the depth and the breadth and how comprehensive the work is and how comprehensive the program is. The feedback I've had is kind of twofold, in that the kind of step by step, although it's comprehensive, it means that it's kind of manageable, and most importantly, that actually when you get to the piece at the end, the practice, which allows us to kind of keep our needs sustained, consistently met, people are surprised, or people have been surprised, how simple, quick and easy it is. In fact, I actually had somebody said to me when they looked at the marketing copy, and they said, simple, quick and easy, I've heard it so many times, really. And I was like, I'm really curious to see what your experience is, how you view it afterwards, and whether you do see it as being something simple, quick and easy, because that's the whole point, is that we want to make it simple, quick and easy to meet our needs.
And it is, the needs practice is simple, quick and easy. You know, so every morning I grab my journal. I'm like, how am I meeting this need today? How am I meeting that need today? How am I meeting that need today? You know, so I know in my day how I'm gonna, but it's also the check-in though, I guess, you know, I mean, that is part of the, sorry, I'm giving things away, but it is the, you know, you check in, you know, I think that's part of the needs practice process is, you know, check in, what do I need? You know, so checking in with the what do I need, and I think for me that's as powerful, you know, it's that habit and that practice, and that is, you just sit there and you're like, it's really quick, you know, and obviously you get better at it as you practice that muscle. And you know, then it's like, great, this is how I'm feeling today, so what does that mean I need? You know, we write wonderful lists as part of the program, so it's not like we don't lack for ideas. You know, then it's the habit of actually in your daytime making sure that you are, you know, doing those things so that you get the nourishment of having your needs met. So that is a very simple practice.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that, and the interesting thing, I mean, you speak about, spoiler alert, kind of giving away parts of the program, but the thing for me is that people can know they have needs, and people can know that you check in and write lists around meeting your needs, unless they understand specifically what the needs are, having gone through the program. But more importantly, that red-green spectrum that helps you to understand the ways that are actually going to be nourishing, those are the things that make the difference.
We have to talk about the red-green spectrum, just to say this is quite a thing I've never seen before. And can I share your analogy?
By all means.
It was amazing. So there are, you know, in terms of, there's quite a spectrum of ways that you can meet your needs. You know, on one end we have the TV dinner, which is, you know, fills you up, but you get hungry real quick afterwards. At the other end we have the nutritious, nourishing, gourmet, like, you know, all the bells and whistles, and it, you know, does the lot, and you stay satisfied for a long time after. So, you know, really recognizing that, and obviously, you know, I'd never seen that, because I mean, you say you meet your needs all the time in every moment, and I was like, holy crap, I really do. And it's just a question of, am I meeting it in a TV dinner kind of way, or am I meeting it in a like gourmet, I'm fully satisfied meal way? And you know, that awareness that you help us through and to build in the program, you know, it permeates into your everyday. It's like, you know, I love a bit of TV, me, you know, and so I know that, you know, when I watch the TV, I'm meeting a need. It might not necessarily be the best way, but what, you know, whatever, I love a Netflix. But I am conscious of it. Like, I know that, you know, if there are needs, I'm like, okay, is this, I can now really be curious about, is this the best way I could meet this need? So, I mean, that red-green spectrum, game changer.
Yeah, right. And the interesting thing is that obviously the program that we did focused on the survival and the intrinsic needs, which is the roots and the trunk of the tree, to give us that kind of stability and nourishment for the rest of the tree to grow. And I'm going to let a little spoiler alert in here, is that when we start to do the branches of the tree and the leaves and the fruit in the tree, especially the leaves and the fruit, there is an aspect in there where it kind of turns our idea about watching TV or hanging out in Netflix or all these things on its head. And sometimes those things are green ways of meeting needs. It's just we haven't yet understood which need is being met in order to do that. So this is the thing, it's like it's a continual dance of understanding, here's what our need is in this moment, and in this moment this need is more important than that need. So hanging out and watching Netflix might give you that rest and respite from the world that actually is meeting one of your root needs, when in actual fact, because that's more important than meeting one of your trunk needs at that point. So it's like you're in this kind of continual checking in of what's more important in this moment and what do I want to put my energy into. So I'm curious, oh, go ahead, is there anything you wanted to?
Well, there was actually, because this is something else to share. So in the program that you know we did together, you did the roots and you did the trunk in terms of the needs, you know, so we didn't get into the branches and leaves. We were just like roots and trunk, which I knew is what I needed. But when it came to the needs practice, you know, I actually, because I didn't have the energy and the kind of mental bandwidth, you know, obviously we went through all of it, but I, in the end, for quite a while, focused on just meeting, you know, using the practice to meet those root needs. You know, so I guess I wanted to share that because it's just so like, you know, do what you can, you know, and I, although we talked about the 7, I could only manage working on the first 3, you know, the foundations, foundation, security and love, you know, and that was, you know, and I was like, but I got that idea from, you know, when you were saying, I was like, oh, I'll just do what I can. And this is what I can manage, you know. And but it meant I got the practice going, and you know I got the benefit anyway. So it was just a great thing to do.
Yeah, and I think it's beautiful. I mean, I've had, because obviously I teach 12 needs in total, and part of the reason that we only do the first 7, the roots and the trunk in the first program, is because, as you say, like 12's too much to take in and really absorb and integrate in one session, which we got from one of the test groups that we did. And I say to even people who've done all 12, it's like, if you want to do all 12 on a given day, do all 12. If you only want to do 7, only do 7. If you can only do 3, only do 3. If all you do is one need, just one, that's all you need to do as a baseline. So you're doing something to take care of yourself in some way, shape or form. So I love that. So were there any kind of specific, I mean, I know we've spoken about kind of some of the different aspects of the program. Was there anything like specific feature of the program that you really liked, that really benefited you, or that you particularly kind of connected with?
I mean, the needs practice, kind of taking the time to write the lists, you know, so I mean, I think that's what's great, you know, in any kind of course container, but this one in particular, is that, you know, you take us step by step through how to, you know, understand, how to recognize, how to see if we're meeting it in a green or a red way, you know, what are, you know, if we want to shift that, how can we meet it in a more green way? And then, you know, we get into like, okay, so specifically for you, because it's so, you know, it's tailored. It's like about how do you meet your needs, not do how I meet them, not just how Claire meet them, how do you meet your needs, you know? And so obviously, you know, you give us kind of like the context, and then we kind of really get into, so how do I, Lynn, meet those needs, or how do I want to, or what is an empowering way for me to meet those, you know? And you give us such great examples, and I tell you, that was really, because sometimes you got to think about these things in really new ways. So, you know, you gave us examples which really helped me to start to think about, oh, okay, yeah. So, and then, you know, once I had that impetus, I was able to kind of write my own list. And, you know, so that was incredibly valuable, just to take the time, you know, as one of the homework exercises, to go, right, how would you positively meet this need? And then we're kind of getting into the actual practice itself. And you give great examples, like you share how you do it, which is immensely valuable. And, you know, so it's the journey that you take us on, which ends in it being specifically, how do I meet my needs? And then a very simple practical tool that I can do every day to kind of build that habit, that practice, and that meeting my own need.
Brilliant. Yeah, absolutely. And so what did you find as a result of going through the program? Like what shifts did you notice from where you were before we went through the program to where you went afterwards? With there like a few things that you can identify as like, oh, here were the things that I noticed were different afterwards that, as opposed to before?
So the thing that it's not necessarily tangible, but the thing that I've really noticed is I feel more solid.
Yeah.
It's more of a feeling than something that I can verbalize too much better than that, but I feel more grounded, I feel more solid, and it's almost, and I'm kind of thinking as I talk, really, it's almost because I every day am focusing in on how do I feel and what do I need? How do I feel and what do I need? It's kind of like, it's almost like, kind of really brought me down like the tree. I'm down into my own body, I'm down into my own kind of, my legs, and I am much more grounded and centered. And it's, in terms of out in the world, because of where I was getting treatment, not necessarily a lot has changed out in my world, but more kind of internally, I do feel, it's like I can feel myself more. And it's also, I feel really proud of myself, like I'm doing, because I understand how important your work is. I know why it's so important in terms of us achieving the other things that we want in life, and we've talked about this before, that meeting your needs is a big part of being able to experience more joy. So to have this practice, kind of like, it goes so hand in hand with what I'm trying to do out in the world. So it's also like, I'm able to go, if I'm kind of whatever I'm feeling that day, it's like, okay, so what needs do I need to meet today? And then that actually allows space for more joy. So that's kind of how they're all the things that are kind of happening for me, or have been happening since I've done the program.
Yeah, it's been really beautiful. I mean, one of the things that I was just blown away by was we got off the final call. I remember, I think it was within 10 minutes of finishing the final call, I had a text from you saying, hey, would you mind if I did a 30-day challenge for meeting our needs in the Facebook group to share with other people? And my response was, of course I don't mind, like if that's what you feel pulled to. But I also think that you really kind of tapped into this sense of community that we had, in that you wanted to share the embedding of this process and the embedding of the practice with others, and maybe inspire others to do it. But also, I know that I jumped in quite often on those, on where you were sharing, here's the day, here's what I'm going to do to meet my needs today, and I jump in as well, which you shared was quite helpful. But it was like, I think that you took the work and you were like, how can I integrate this even more? How can I make this even more a part of my life? And I think that's one of the reasons that you've received the benefits that you have on the other side of it.
Yes, I mean, as a coach, I know that you need to create a habit, and it was an inspired idea. After it, I was like, oh, I know what I need to do. I need to, do this every day for the next 30 days, because I've run challenges in my own business, and I know how amazing they can be to really get somebody to, and it was about embedding that practice in my life. And I put it in the group so that, people could join in if they wanted to. But it was also so that I gave myself an accountability. Because as you know, halfway through, I fell off the bandwagon, and it was almost like sitting here in my head, I was like, I'm going to be a person who finishes my 30-day challenge. And I may not have done that if I hadn't had the group container. And that's just me, but I also know that it's the same for a lot of people, and I finished it out. I did my 30-day challenge over maybe 40, 45, but we got there in the end, and it really did help me embed the practice into my life, because I wanted to reap the benefits. I know what it can do, so, but it also is the case that it's not going to do anything if I'm not doing the practice. So that's why I wanted to make sure I did that, as for myself.
Absolutely. And the thing I loved about it was, I can't count how many times I've heard from people, oh, I need to catch up on this, or I need to catch up on that, or have you. It's the same thing with the, almost with the challenge. And my response to that was always, you only need to catch up if there's a time pressure you're putting on yourself, because the time pressure isn't coming from me. Like the invitation is to do it at a time that works for you. And I love that you kind of stepped out of it for a bit because life happened, and then you engaged with one of the core principles of the needs work, which is every now is a new moment to meet your needs. So every now is a new opportunity to meet your needs. And it was like, just because I haven't done it for the last 4 days, 7 days, whatever it is, that doesn't matter. What matters is if I want to do it now, I can engage with it now. And that's what you did. And that was how the 30 days kind of completed. And that was really beautiful to watch.
Yes, that was it in a nutshell. I was like, that's exactly right about how it is a reflection of the needs practice. It's like, it's not about the fact that I missed days. It's not about that. It's about right here and now, I want to re-engage.
Yes.
And so away I went, which is, you know, and that's probably a thing that really kind of hit home for me through the program, which I hadn't realized until, you know, you just said that right now. Because in the past, I may not have, you know, picked up. I may have just let it, you know, fall away. But I was like, no, it's fine. I'm just going to go forward, you know. And so, yes, that's very true.
Well, and the funny thing is that the 30 days was a way that you were meeting your needs. And on the days that you weren't doing the 30-day practice, you would have been meeting your needs in other ways. Because there was another way of meeting your needs that was more important that day than the 30-day practice. Yeah. And then when the 30-day practice became more important again, up it bubbled to the surface, and that's when you then engage with it. So it's really important for me that as people kind of go through this work, is that they're gentle with themselves, and they don't use this work as a kind of stick to beat themselves with, I should be doing this and I should be doing that. It's like, actually, you're doing what you need to do. And if you're not doing what your brain thinks you should be doing, it's okay, because chances are the thing you're doing is meeting your needs in the way you need to have them met. And it's about getting the brain on board and going, well, actually, this is the way that meets my needs most today. And I know I've got that knowledge in the background of what my needs are and the ways of meeting my needs that really work for me. And any moment that I want to re-engage consciously with the practice, I can do, and I know that I'll get a benefit from doing that.
Yes, and you reminding us on the calls, you know, there were moments, you know, every call or every other call, you would just say a little thing like that, and I would just kind of re-sink back in and go, oh yeah, okay,
yeah, absolutely.
So, you know, that was really important, you know, having those reminders. And it's just part of what you teach and how you talk about what you do. So it wasn't anything special. It's just, that's how you talk about it. But because it's still quite new, it's not, it is a new way of approaching things. So that reminder just kept me, you know, I kept going, you know.
And you know what, it's funny because I did the Facebook video, I remember, after our call. It was actually our call that inspired me to do a Facebook video in the group, sharing what I'd shared with you, which is like, let's take the pressure off, do it in the way that works for you. And the response to people on that video, and the response when we get to the point of the practice where it's like, here's the practice, here's how we take the pressure off, here's how we make it easy, here's how we make it something that feels supportive to you. It's in some respects, it's quite funny for me because I kind of forget, because I teach this is how I work with all my clients, and it's how I live my life. And I forget that this is a new thing for most people. And it was a bit of a shock for me, like the kind of upswell of reaction to, oh my God, thank you for saying this. I feel so much better now. Like I feel relaxed. And not only do I feel relaxed, I actually want to do the program. Whereas there was a part of me that was a little bit like, do I really want to? It feels like pressure. And the second the pressure was taken off, it's like, oh no, I really want to do it. There was a pull towards it. It was beautiful to witness, and it's those sorts of things that have helped me, that I'm seeding even more and more of that into the program now, to make sure that people get those reminders as they go through.
Brilliant.
So I'm getting the answer to the next question is probably yes, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Would you recommend the program, and if so, why would you recommend it?
Yes, yes, I would recommend the program. I would recommend the program because I think understanding your needs, knowing how to meet your needs, can create a fundamentally richer life, in a nutshell. It is the tool they didn't teach us at school. It is the easy habit that can make you less anxious, more energized, have better relationships, and the list could go on. Because, you know, when you are able to meet your own needs, you withdraw. It's like, you know, you pull back into yourself. So you are not out there trying to meet your needs, you know, with people or with things or other stuff outside of you, which causes all kinds of dramas and problems. But when you can, you know, and we're doing that because we don't necessarily realize or know how to meet our own needs. So we, you know, when you learn how to do that, you can come back into yourself, be more grounded. You can engage with the world in an entirely different way, and it is a different way of living. It's a beautiful, richer way of living.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing. And I just wanted to circle back to something you said earlier about, on the other side of this, you feel more grounded and more centered, and it's this kind of feeling of solidity in your being. And it's the feedback I get all the time. And when you kind of put it in the context of the needs tree, that we focused on the roots and the trunk, it makes perfect sense as to why you feel more grounded and centered, because you have this support structure within yourself. You have the access to the resources that you need to deal with day-to-day life from within yourself. It's not coming, there's no dependency, as you say, on these things outside of us, which kind of causes us to be a little bit, unstable. Oh God, are you going to give me what I need? Oh, is this actually going to work? It creates this kind of this stability inside, and this access to a kind of resource within us, which we can kind of grow, and then we can share with others, which is the cool thing. Like, it's not just actually for us, it starts with us, but this then ripples out to everyone and everything else that we have in our lives.
We have so much more resource to share when we are internally resourcing ourselves.
Absolutely. 100%. Definitely. And just before we finish up, is there anything else you'd like to add? Anything else you'd like to share with, like, if you think about where you were at when you were considering doing this, like, is there anything you would have wanted to hear, or that would have helped you to figure out whether this was the right fit for you?
The thing actually that comes to mind to share is to let people know that you actually hold such a nurturing, safe, non-judgmental space, and I think that does make a difference, you know. And you are one of the few people I've met who, you're a very clear person. By that, you know, you have done a lot of your own work, and you know that comes across. You're very clear, but that matters in terms of this, you know, the brilliant space that you are able to hold. So it doesn't matter where people are. You know, it doesn't matter if, you know, they're new to needs work, or, you know, they've done a lot on this and this is like just a new way of kind of working, you know, doing their work. You know, you have such capacity to hold people wherever they are, and gently move them forward, which is the thing I think I'd been missing in my life, was somebody who could be both hold and be gentle. But still, you know, you've got a very wonderful mind, so it's a very, you know, structured process, but it holds all of that in the container.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing. It's something that the reason I created this work is because I needed it first and foremost. So I come to sharing this work with others as somebody who uses it, not just somebody who has used it in the past, somebody who, it's a part of my daily life. And people often ask me, so how do you do this bit of your life? Or how do you do that bit of your life? It's like, well, how do you follow your intuition? How do you make friends so easily? How do you create the success you do in your business? And I kind of get a little concerned that I sound a bit like a broken record, because the answer is always the needs, because it's the foundation, and it's what's given me that foundation, which is why I wanted to share it with other people. But it's really great to have that reflected, that that it means that I can hold a space where people are feeling, that's what I want, is people to feel safe, and that they can be wherever they are at, they can do whatever they have the capacity to do. There's no judgment. All there is an intent to support them in being able to move in the direction they want to and in the direction and at the rate at which they have the capacity to. There is no pressure, which allows them to, like, for it all to unfold and for them to blossom at the rate which is right for them.
Absolutely. And that's a very unique container, which is why I think I wanted to share it.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for being here today and for sharing this. As I said, I personally found your experience and your journey with this work very inspiring, and I hope that the people who are watching have done too. And if you're watching this and you'd like to find out a little bit more, then take a look at the page you're currently on.